Hello everybody and welcome to our review of One Piece chapter 1029, where Oda decides to wrap up the fight between the two members of the Worst Generation in the form of Basil Hawkins and Killer, which I appreciate, because I actually thought this was a fight that was going to be ending sooner than it did, just given the way that everything else is structured. But here we are right now. Speaking of Supernova and Worst Generation, we have Jewelry Bonnie on the cover page with a group of sea otters eating a bowl of soba noodles, because obviously soba mask at Sanji. I'm kind of curious what's happened with Jewelry Bonnie, because the last time we saw her, she was at the reverie, and she saw what went down. Obviously with Kuma, very upset about that. We know there's a connection between them. I actually made an earlier prediction that Bonnie might come to Wano only to give a brief to everybody else that's on Wano right now, because she's the only one that possibly could escape with giving her devil fruit ability, and maybe give word as to what's going on right now. Because she did say after Luffy and Law took down Doflamingo, guys are pretty awesome. So she was complimenting Law and Luffy after they took down Doflamingo. So maybe if Robin gets kidnapped, that may not matter anyway, because they'll go to Marajoa anyhow. So speaking of which, we start the chapter with the way we ended it with the previous one, with Sanji shattering a sword because of his body changing. And I said in that chapter there's going to be a lot of the Zoro and Sanji fanboys are going to be debating back and forth because of this now. Swords sliced from a second level Yoko commander on Sanji's body and having it shatter is obviously a feat. The rest of the Vinsmokes have this trait too. That's why Sanji is puzzled by all this. There's one thing I want to add to that, and that's pretty much, is there a limit to how much Sanji can withstand here? Because I'm going back to the example I used in the last review, where I mentioned Reiju got filled up with bullets by Pudding. She recovered after that, but the fact that Pudding was able to have bullets that pierced one of the Vinsmoke's bodies, it kind of speaks volumes to how effective those bullets are. So my question is there a limit to how much Sanji's body can withstand here now, even with swords? I'll use this for example. Could you see the same thing happening with Mihawk? Mihawk tries to take a swing and all of a sudden his sword shatters over Sanji's body. I can't see that. So there has to be a limit. Or does that depend on Sanji's durability? Because if that's the case, Sanji will be broken as hell. Queen is all gung-ho about this because he wants Sanji to use the raid suit. Queen's about to use a pacifista like beam. And then before that happens, Sanji's like trying to get some distance because he's freaked out by all this. So Queen opens fires, obviously misses, but Sanji's just running away. And the last time Sanji had some character development, debatable, is when Robin came in to actually save him. I was thinking maybe Robin would come in and actually help out, but I don't see her in this chapter unless she appears in the next one. So, but I'm hoping Sanji overcomes this fear himself, because he has to at this point. Like, this is the perfect opportunity, because this battle's not only going to be physical now, but also psychological, because he doesn't want to be linked up with the Vinsmokes, but at some point he's going to have to accept that and use that to help out the Straws. That's what Robin did. Sanji has to do the same. I think Zoro's going to get an extra push. Not that he needs it when it comes to being loyal members of the Straw Hats, but Zoro's going to get a push when he goes face to face with King, because his body's on the brink anyhow. And you see one of the Beast Pirates actually tries to fight and actually nails Sanji, but it's like, it hurt you bastard. So that's my point earlier. So it hits his body, but it doesn't really kill him. It just hurts Sanji, because otherwise I just takes the tension out of this fight if that's the case. But again, Queen's like, show me what that jump attack can do. And then we go over to the second floor, which, by the way, the flames are still spreading like wildfire. Haha. Where Big Mom is taking on Law and Kid, and because of the hot battle with Hawkins and Killer, it obviously Kid is kind of nerfed at this point. If Hawkins gets damaged, Kid receives it. So that's where Killer's in between a rock and a hard place. Kid's down. Law's like, damn you, stop being dead weight. He uses Shambles and comes in with Counter Shot, which is pretty cool. In comes Prometheus, blasts Law. I guess this is a case of nerfing Law and Kid at this point, because if that Law could do internal damage and Kid could do external damage with their techniques. Then we go over to the third floor where the battle's taking place, and what's interesting is that Hawkins is doing damage to himself. Killer isn't even attacking at this point. He's like, just stop this. He's just like headbutting the wall, and obviously that's doing damage to Kid. And it looks like Killer's ready to like offer up his own life because he's like, just stop this. Because then we get a Thriller Bark type moment, but with Kid and with Killer instead of Zoro, because he's like, release Kid and you can have my life. That's what it takes. That's exactly what Zoro did for Luffy. Obviously the rest of the Straw Hats too, but more specifically Luffy with Kuma. It's like, you can have my head, leave Luffy alone. That would be satisfactory, wouldn't it? And at first I thought it was serious, but actually Killer uses this opportunity to like think ahead. But then Hawkins is like, you thinking you can take down the Yonko was ridiculous in its own right. So your side has no chance of winning. And this chapter, more specifically with not only taking down Hawkins so Kid could get back up again, but also it's like a way for Killer to teach Hawkins like, no, probability isn't always the right outcome. Like, you can't just predict something that's going to happen. There's going to be things that happen beyond your power and understanding, and that's what happened in this chapter. And Luffy is a prime example with that. And you also see Killer's mask like start to crack, kind of like King's did, but only it doesn't crack open by the end of this chapter. Even though we know what he looks like, because I was expecting Kamazu the Killer to emerge by the end of this chapter, but no, Oda decides to wrap this fight up, and Hawkins is about to like kill Killer, and then Killer uses this opportunity. What happens if you take damage that has nowhere else to go? And by that he actually takes the arm, he takes Hawkins' arm and severs it, go for the same arm that Kid has the metal arm now, so that's pretty cool, where his arm's already been severed, so it wouldn't make no difference at this point. So Hawkins is the only one that pays for that. He takes his arm, and this is for real now. So, and then he actually grabs one of the straw dolls, the miniature straw dolls. If I remove this, and Hawkins doesn't have any lives left to use, and Hawkins is like, well played. So he comes in with the massive straw man doll, and he comes in with a scythe. Killer just slashes straight through that thing, no problem, with a guillotine. That's pretty cool. Like I said, the one thing I was looking forward to in this fight was actually Killer's attacks, considering what we saw with him and Kaido, how he helped out against Kaido. Slashes up the straw man doll, and he comes in for Killer, and this sequence kind of reminds me of Zoro versus Pika. There were so many throwbacks to like Zoro events that took place in One Piece, but also with this, it's just in the form of Killer here, because the way it reminds me of with Zoro and Pika is because Zoro cut up the huge rock body, the giant stone body of Pika first in half, then in sandwich cuts. Then he went for Pika, the actual body, sliced him up while he was using full body armament haki. I was expecting Hawkins to do something dissimilar, but no, he didn't even use any haki. So at that point, it was GG. He comes in with a blade, sonic blade, and then just slices Hawkins. Hawkins is pretty much KO'd at that point. And then this, I like the dynamic here between the right hand man and the censure. And Kid gets back up, obviously because of this, and you got Killer like, go on partner, go for it. So I like that. I'm wondering if we're going to get any flashbacks like with Kid in this fight, because the way this is prepping itself up. So Killer did his job. I mean, we figured obviously Killer had to take down Hawkins somehow in order for Kid to actually rise up. But here, what's going to happen with Big Mom? Because I think it's established that Kaido is going to go down. I can also see Big Mom going down. The reason I say that is because the whole Oda wants to hype up Kid as Luffy's rival right now. So the only way you would do that, if you have Luffy take down Kaido, as crazy it would seem, it would make sense to have Kid do the same with Big Mom. Plus, Kid did invade Big Mom's Whole Cake Island. Actually, it was stated that Kid bailed. What better way to redeem himself than to actually help take out Big Mom? Obviously, he's going to have Law with him to back him up. It'd be kind of cool. This fight got resolved so we can move on to like the rest of the fights. Going to be very curious to see what Oda focuses on next right now, because we haven't seen Kaido Luffy in 2 chapters. So all in all, I thought it was an okay chapter. It was a decent chapter for Killer, definitely. And now Kid could really get some spotlight here with Big Mom teaming up with Law. So we'll have to wait to see where that goes. Let me know what you guys think down below. That's going to do it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Like the review if you did it. A thumbs up, I appreciate that. Subscribe to help for more One Piece. Catch you guys later. Thanks, guys. Bye.